So, I heard you're stuck in a tough situation because of some old fertility treatments we tried years after we split up, my ex-husband said with a smirk. We happened to bump into each other at a famous wine country spot, which felt pretty ironic. He seemed to think it was all a big waste of time, looking down on me like he always did after our divorce. He'd moved on, remarried, and had kids, feeling like he was on top of the world, while here I was, still struggling. But little did he know I had a surprise in store for him. As he scoffed at me, I gently patted my slightly swollen belly. Guess whose story this might be? I replied, watching the shock dawn on his face. It was a moment of poetic justice, the beginning of a twist in fate that would change everything for both of us. My name is Emma, and I work at a travel agency. I spend my days helping people plan their trips, finding joy in making sure they have the best experience possible. David, my ex-husband, and I met at work, fell in love, and got married. He was always so calm and supportive, encouraging me even during the busiest times. But our journey took a turn when we struggled to start a family. Despite our efforts, we couldn't seem to conceive. It was a dream of mine to have a big family, to fill the void left by losing my parents at a young age. David was understanding, assuring me that everything would happen in its own time. After years of trying and no success, I began to worry. Maybe there was something wrong with me. David, ever the supportive partner, encouraged me to see a doctor, holding on to hope that everything would be all right. Tests after tests, nothing seemed to be amiss with me. David was relieved, his kind smile offering me comfort in the midst of uncertainty. But when it came to his turn for testing, he hesitated. Infertility, he argued, was usually a woman's issue. It took some convincing, but eventually, he agreed to undergo testing. As we faced this challenge together, our bond grew stronger. We learned to lean on each other for support, finding solace in the simple moments of togetherness. And as we awaited the results of David's tests, we both knew that whatever the outcome, we would face it together, united in our journey towards building a family. It was a delicate matter, one that could easily bruise his pride as a man. I understood that bringing it up could potentially hurt him, so I chose to tread carefully. There's no rush, whenever you're ready, I reassured him, hoping to ease the tension. But my husband remained silent, leaving the topic hanging in the air. One day, we visited my husband's family home to celebrate his mother's birthday. She had raised him single-handedly after his father's departure, facing numerous challenges along the way. As she turned 59 and retired, I admired her resilience and hoped for her happiness in her well-deserved retirement. We arrived with a bouquet and a gift, expecting a joyful gathering. My mother-in-law's initial reaction was warm and appreciative, but then she unexpectedly shifted the mood. "I'm looking forward to seeing a grandchild's face," she said, her tone changing abruptly. I was taken aback, feeling a wave of discomfort wash over me as she directed her expectations towards me. Glancing at my husband for support, I found him silent, leaving me to navigate the conversation alone. As my mother-in-law subtly pressed the issue, urging us to prioritize starting a family, I struggled to find the right words. Despite having undergone tests myself and finding no issues, the pressure from her words weighed heavily on me. I wished my husband would step in and clarify, but his silence only amplified my feelings of being unfairly blamed. The drive back home was filled with an uneasy silence, our shadows stretching long in the fading light. I couldn't shake off the weight of the conversation, wondering what my husband was thinking. Finally, mustering the courage, I broke the silence, confronting him about his mother's words. His initial reaction was defensive, his smile faltering as I expressed my frustration. But as the conversation unfolded, his tone grew angrier, revealing a side of him I hadn't seen before. I tried to explain that infertility wasn't about placing blame, but about facing the issue together as a couple. Yet, our words only seemed to deepen the divide between us. It was our first real fight, a clash born out of unresolved tensions and unspoken fears. As we grappled with the weight of expectations and the reality of our situation, I realized that moving forward would require us to confront our fears together, regardless of the outcome. Whether we chose to pursue treatment or not, the first step would be facing the truth, hand in hand, as a united front. No matter how much we argued, neither of us seemed willing to budge from our respective points of view, leaving us at a frustrating stalemate. As my husband stormed out of the house in a fit of frustration, I found myself alone, the weight of our argument heavy on my shoulders. Sitting in the quiet room, tears streaming down my face, I couldn't shake the image of him shouting, wondering if it was my fault for pushing him too hard. The next morning, my husband returned home, his silence speaking volumes. Worried and anxious, I tried to reach out, but his dismissive response only added to the tension between us. With a heavy heart, I watched as he left for work, leaving our unresolved conflict lingering in the air. In the days that followed, it became apparent that our relationship had shifted. My husband's once jovial demeanor gave way to a distant and aloof attitude. He started spending more time away from home, leaving early and returning late, leaving me feeling isolated and alone. As weeks turned into months, the gap between us widened. Our conversations became strained, our moments of intimacy replaced by awkward silences. I tried to understand what had changed, but my husband remained closed off, his actions speaking louder than words. It wasn't long before I began to suspect that he was hiding something. His frequent absences, the secretive behavior, all signs pointed to infidelity. I tried to ignore my suspicions, hoping they were just my imagination running wild, but deep down, I knew the truth. One day, while doing his laundry, I found a small earring hidden among his clothes. At that moment, the truth hit me like a ton of bricks. My husband was having an affair. Despite my fears, I couldn't bring myself to confront him, terrified of what I might uncover. But as the days passed, I realized that I couldn't continue living in denial. Summoning all the courage I had left, I made the decision to confront him and seek the truth. With the help of a private investigator, I uncovered the affair, discovering that it had started around the time our marriage began to unravel. The revelation was painful, but it also brought a sense of clarity. My husband's betrayal forced me to confront the reality of our relationship, and I knew that I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and deceit. With a heavy heart, I made the difficult decision to end our marriage, determined to reclaim my happiness and move forward with my life. It was a painful realization to come to terms with the extent of my husband's deceit. Not only had he betrayed me with his affair, but I also discovered that I was just one among many who had fallen victim to his manipulative tactics. His charming demeanor and his position of power had made it easy for him to prey on vulnerable female employees. As I confronted him with the evidence of his infidelity, his shock quickly turned to defensiveness. He tried to downplay the situation, accusing me of being jealous and suggesting that I focus on fertility treatments instead. His callous disregard for my feelings only fueled my determination to end our marriage. With a heavy heart, I handed him the divorce papers, putting an end to our tumultuous relationship. He left without much fanfare, taking only the essentials with him. And as I cleaned out our apartment, I felt no sense of nostalgia for the life we had once shared. But just as I was preparing to move on with my life, a stranger appeared at my door, his presence unexpected and bewildering. He spoke of a dream he had pursued for 3 years, a dream that had finally come true thanks to his diligent saving. Intrigued and somewhat perplexed, I listened as he shared his story, wondering what connection it could possibly have to my own journey of self-discovery and healing. I turned around and, to my surprise, I was met with a sight that left me speechless. It was my ex-husband, the man I had parted ways with 4 years ago. "Well, I never expected to run into you here. Are you taking a solo trip to wine country? That's pretty sad," he remarked, his work clothes disheveled, his beard unkempt, and his hair messy. I couldn't help but wonder if he had left his job at the travel agency. He wasted no time in reminding me of our past, his sarcastic smile dripping with mockery. "So I hear you're stuck in dead hell because of some futile fertility treatments," he sneered, looking down on me as if reveling in my misfortune. It was clear he wanted to flaunt his supposed happiness with his new family, believing himself to be the victor in our separation. I shot him a cold glare, refusing to let his words affect me. "And whose story might that be?" I retorted, not willing to let him get under my skin. But then he mentioned something that caught me off guard: the debt collector who had visited our old apartment. As he continued to mock me, insinuating that I had accumulated debt for futile fertility treatments, I couldn't hold back any longer. I confronted him with the truth, a truth that visibly shook him to the core. I explained how 4 years ago, after our divorce, his father had come looking for him, mistakenly believing that we still lived together. He had been in dire financial straits, abandoned by his mistress and desperate for help. Despite it having nothing to do with me anymore, I had given him David's contact information. As the reality of his father's actions sunk in, David's face flushed with anger. He blamed me for giving his father his contact information, leading to incessant inquiries for help. His frustration was palpable, his anger directed not only at his father but also at me. But amidst his rage, I felt no sympathy for him. His father's selfishness was not my burden to bear. And then he mentioned something unexpected: his wife's apology for her troublesome father and their decision to give their marriage another chance for the sake of their unborn child. As I glanced at the name embroidered on his work clothes, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. Our encounter in the bustling wine country served as a stark reminder of the complexities of our past, but also of the newfound clarity and resolve I had discovered in moving forward with my life. It seemed that my ex-husband's life had taken an unexpected turn. Instead of managing a branch of a travel agency, he now worked as a cleaner, under the watchful eye of his wife's family who ran a cleaning business. His financial freedom seemed to have evaporated, with his wife managing all the earnings from the business, leaving him with little to spend as he pleased. I couldn't help but feel a sense of admiration for his wife's grounded approach to managing their finances. She seemed to have seen through his past indiscretions and had taken measures to keep him in check. But as I pondered the situation, I couldn't shake the feeling that there might be more to the story. As I probed further, my ex-husband's demeanor changed, his face turning pale. I couldn't help but wonder if there was something he was still hiding from me. And then, with a sense of triumph, I revealed the truth: I was pregnant. His reaction was one of shock and disbelief, as if time had frozen for him in that moment. But I had moved on from our past life, embracing a new reality far beyond his imagination. With a finality in my voice, I brushed off his attempts to stop me and asserted my independence. I revealed that I was the owner of the upscale hotel we stood in front of, a dream I had pursued diligently after our divorce. Using my savings and inheritance from my parents, I had renovated the hotel, turning it into a luxurious destination beloved by guests far and wide. With my net worth now in the millions, I had found success and happiness on my own terms. And as I turned my back on my ex-husband, I made it clear that I owed him nothing. Our paths had diverged, and I had no intention of letting him disrupt my newfound peace and prosperity. As I walked into the hotel, leaving my ex-husband behind, I could feel a sense of finality settling over me. The staff stopped him from following me inside, and soon enough, the echoes of his voice calling my name faded away, leaving me to ponder our unexpected reunion. However, a few weeks later, I received a letter that would turn my world upside down once again. It was from my ex-husband, a surprising and unwelcome development, considering I had thought our chapter was closed. With a mixture of curiosity and apprehension, I opened the envelope and read the contents with growing shock. In the letter, my ex-husband revealed a startling truth that had come to light following our reunion. He confessed that he had begun to suspect his paternity of their child, questioning whether he was truly the father. Despite his wife's assurances, he couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. After persistent questioning, his wife finally admitted the truth. The child he believed to be his own was actually fathered by another man, someone she had dated during her college years. She had concealed this fact from him, fabricating a story to secure their marriage and a stable life. Their relationship had been built on deceit, with his wife manipulating him into submission by threatening divorce and controlling his every move. Faced with this betrayal, my ex-husband's world crumbled, and he made the difficult decision to pursue a divorce, despite opposition from his wife's family. But his attempts to break free from the shackles of his marriage were met with resistance, as his in-laws sided with his wife, refusing to grant him the freedom he sought. In a desperate bid to reclaim his autonomy, my ex-husband fled from his wife's oppressive hold, with little more than a handful of cash to his name. Reading his words, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy for him, despite everything that had transpired between us. His story was a testament to the power of deception and the consequences of living a life built on lies. As I folded the letter and set it aside, I couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead for both of us, now that our paths had diverged once again. It's been a rough journey for my ex-husband since our paths diverged. From what I gathered from his letter, he's been drifting from one motel to another, struggling to find stable employment. Even when he manages to secure odd jobs, his disheveled appearance and lack of resources make it hard for him to get ahead. He expressed a longing for the past, perhaps yearning for the simplicity of our previous life together. Despite his hardships, I can't bring myself to entertain the idea of reconciliation. The wounds from our past are still fresh, from the fertility tests to his affair and his dismissive attitude towards me during our reunion. He was always self-centered, never taking my feelings into consideration. Now, I'm in a different place in my life. I have a bright future ahead, building a family with my supportive husband and our baby on the way. I made it clear through a lawyer that any attempt by my ex-husband to contact me will result in a restraining order. As my due date approaches, I can't help but feel a mix of excitement and anxiety about giving birth for the first time. But my husband's unwavering support eases my worries. On his days off, he's by my side, helping with household chores and reassuring me every step of the way. Today, we're planning to take a leisurely stroll through wine country, savoring the changing seasons and enjoying the serenity of our favorite walking route. As we walk, I feel a gentle kick from our baby, a reminder of the joy and responsibility that awaits us. In moments like these, I'm reminded of the preciousness of our happiness. Despite the uncertainties of life, having my husband by my side fills me with gratitude and hope for the future. And as we breathe in the fresh air of our charming town, I can't help but feel optimistic about the journey ahead.